I think these are kind of slightly different components too, right? So you're going to have a sports car. Maybe it's sitting in the back of your truck. You have a motorcycle. You can pop off and handle rough terrain. I don't know. The analogy is I think secondary to the idea that the best beta portfolio now allows you to select against that beta portfolio when you think you have some edge that provides better and more insights than your beta stack is giving you. So now the alpha stack is something that, how do you approach that? How do you say, and I think, thoughtful construction with the carry side is a very interesting complement. It's almost acting like fake alpha. It's thoughtful beta can also sort of present itself as a little bit like beta. Thoughtful construction, that rebalancing premium. But now let's get into alpha. Okay, how do we think, because alpha is hard, right? This is not a risk premium you get for sort of sitting on your hands and bearing the non-diversifiable risk factors. This is, we're actively going into the marketplace because we think we can kind of take money from somebody else.
Yes, and before we get into the alpha side, let's set the table. Alpha should be non-correlated to beta, our beta, that risk parity component. So that's what we define as alpha, right? And alpha is a zero-sum game for the most part. And so there is not a lot. Why is it that we've spoken in the hundred so podcasts that we've done 90% about risk parity and 10 to 0% about alpha? Because we can't talk too much about alpha. We can't say too much specific about what we're doing. But maybe Adam, walk through what alpha is and what the issues behind talking too much about alpha are. And then maybe we can get into more accessible, long, short factor components and dig into that as a way to give something to the audience.
I think it's worth going back to our beginnings, actually, because I think that helps to kind of tell the story, right? We spent, back in 2011, we published a paper called Adaptive Asset Allocation. We laid out all of the rules that an investor might use in great detail to be able to execute a strategy on his or her own to replicate this concept, right? And over time, we've written papers on all manner of detail for trend, stuff on carry, seasonality. We've gone into great detail in the past on the underlying drivers of our edges, right? And in the last couple of years, we have dramatically shifted course. And so what happened, right? Well, what happened is that, when we were sharing all of the things that we were thinking and that we were implementing, we were largely deriving our alpha edges from the academic literature. There have been other groups that had published widely disseminated papers that described pretty well how to generate these edges, right? We just talked at length about carry. There's a paper by Koijin, who's affiliated with AQR, on how to build a carry strategy. We do it slightly differently. I think ours is better. I'm sure AQR does it differently in practice than they describe in the paper. But somebody who understands futures markets and is reasonably proficient with quantitative methods could build a carry strategy from that paper, and it will probably do very well over time. And people could build a diversified trend strategy from a lot of the things that we've published over the years, right? What happened in, 2018, right, is we circled back with a contact of ours, an acquaintance of ours, who had worked with us for a few years as we were just getting started, then went to work in Chicago as a prop trader and just had made just an unbelievable success with his methods. And he came and he sort of described what he was doing, and we were like, no, that can't work. There's no way that can't work in public markets. All of the academic literature, all of the academic assumptions, the entire school of the University of Chicago and Wharton says that the methods that you are advocating can't work. And he said, well, okay, that may be what the literature said, but I've been using these methods for years to generate just obscene levels of P&L with just obscenely little in the way of risk. And it was that existence proof that gave us the impetus to go and try these things that had previously been verboten, that we had been brainwashed into thinking were not worth exploring or impossible. And
we railed against it.
We did. We totally railed against it, and over the ensuing 18 months or 2 years, we built a prototype. We innovated on it, and we discovered that, in fact, all of the things that this person had been telling us were absolutely true, and that there is magic here. And so what's interesting now is that we can't as responsible fiduciaries talk in any detail about exactly how we run our alpha strategies, because while the tools that we use are, they're sophisticated, they require relatively deep quantitative expertise, it's not that no one else has access to these tools or these concepts, right? They could, in theory, be reverse engineered if we sort of divulged a few key tenets. And so the reality is we can't, and we won't, because our clients depend on us to hold these secrets sacred, to continue to generate excess returns for them, because that's what they pay us for. So, it is a really interesting shift in thinking from publishing everything in a very open way to realizing you have, I don't know, I hesitate to say a secret that no one else is willing to acknowledge or explore, and then, having performance demonstrate that there is gold and then there are hills, and now being not really able to talk about it.